You hear shorter work week and you think, dream come true, right? But for a certain kind of leader, a law like Mexico's proposed 40-hour work week, well, it feels like the end of the world. But what if it's not a crisis at all? What if it's the single best thing that could ever happen to your company? Let's dive in, because this supposed crisis might actually be a hidden blueprint for a much, much better way to lead. See, for one type of leader, something like this isn't just a small shift in policy. It feels like an existential threat. It's like the board's been flipped over. It feels like a checkmate that's just disguised as a crisis. Why? Because it's a direct attack on the one thing they believe truly drives success: sheer brute force effort. And their reaction? It's dangerously predictable. The math seems simple, doesn't it? Okay, so the government is taking away 16.66% of our time. No problem. We just have to work 16.66% harder. That's the go-to response of a leader who puts on a cape, gives a big, rousing speech, and demands more sacrifice, more hustle, more sweat. But here's the thing. That logic is a trap. It's the kind of thinking that builds empires of ash. So why is that just work harder instinct so incredibly wrong? To really get that, we need to understand the psychology behind it. We need to meet the main character in this whole drama, the well-intentioned, often overworked, and ultimately destructive hero leader. And here's what you've got to understand. This kind of heroism, it isn't a strategy. It's a symptom of a massive design failure. The hero leader is constantly, frantically putting out fires, and yeah, it makes them feel indispensable and valuable, but they just can't see that they're the ones leaving matches and gasoline all over the office in the first place. So let's just take a second here and be brutally honest. Does any of this sound familiar? Because as we go through some of the common traits of this hero, you might start to see a colleague, maybe a boss, or just maybe even yourself. You know, every single one of these behaviors creates a toxic feedback loop. Take micromanagement, for example. The leader's addiction to it just makes them a bottleneck for everything. Or how about tolerating that toxic rock star? That one person erodes team morale and literally drives your best people away. And by always solving the symptoms instead of the root cause, they guarantee the fires will never, ever stop. It's a system that's perfectly designed for failure. And this is where the real damage is done. The cost of this leadership style isn't just a bad vibe around the office. It's a silent killer of your bottom line. It's a cost that never shows up in your regular financial reports, but believe me, it is draining your company completely dry. Now, get ready for this number. It's staggering. 95% of a company's problems are systemic. They are baked right into your processes, your communication, your structure. Only a tiny 5% are actually human error. But where does the hero leader spend all their time and all their energy? You guessed it, on that 5%, completely ignoring the real source of the fire. And what about the people? The hero leader often tolerates a toxic genius. You know, that high performer who always hits their numbers but poisons the entire team. What's the cost of that? Well, a Harvard Business Review study estimates it's over $12,000 per year for each toxic employee, just from the morale and turnover they cause. And when those good people finally get fed up and leave because they're tired of the micromanagement and the toxic culture, the cost to replace just one skilled employee is estimated to be between 6 and 9 months of their annual salary. That is a massive, self-inflicted financial wound. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly illustrates the personal toll. The hero leader's path doesn't lead to victory, it leads straight to burnout. They become the ultimate victim of the very system they created, trapped in a cycle of endless work that produces less and less. But there is another way. Okay, so if the hero model is a trap, what's the alternative? Well, the answer requires a fundamental shift in identity, from a firefighting hero to a system-building architect. This is the exact question the architect asks. They don't look at a 40-hour work week and see a restriction. No way. They see it as a mandatory catalyst for innovation, an opportunity to finally fix what's been broken for years. And that right there is the core difference. The architect knows that the key to getting more done in less time isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. They don't run towards the fire with a bucket of water. They step back and design a sprinkler system. This contrast is absolutely everything. The hero asks, how can I solve this? Which, of course, makes them the bottleneck. The architect asks, how can we build a system to solve this forever? which turns them into the engine. See the difference? One creates dependence, the other creates independence. Now, I know this transformation feels huge, but it actually breaks down into 3 very actionable steps. First, it starts with a brutally honest look in the mirror. Then it moves to true delegation, not just offloading tasks, but empowering teams with a mission and the authority they need to achieve it. And finally, it's about becoming obsessed with process, mapping out how work gets done and systematically eliminating every single ounce of waste, just like the masters over at Toyota. But just shifting your actions isn't enough. You also have to shift how you measure success. To know if this new system is really working, you need a new way to keep score. Let's call it the freedom equation. You see, the hero measures their success by how tired they are at the end of the day. The architect wins by building a machine that runs beautifully without them. And to do that, they need a completely new dashboard, a new set of metrics that measure the health of the system, not the effort of one individual. So let's look at this new dashboard. Where the hero measures productivity by hours worked, the architect measures income per hour worked. Where the hero just wants a team that follows instructions, the architect is tracking the number of proactive suggestions. It's a fundamental shift from just counting the fires you put out to measuring the real health and output of the entire system. And the fuel for this new engine? It's something called emotional salary. That 16.66% efficiency gain you need doesn't come from a whip. It comes from unlocking human potential. It's about investing in what really motivates people, giving them the autonomy to own their work, the recognition they deserve, connecting them to a greater purpose, and making sure they feel psychologically safe. This is the real source of productivity. And this is the great paradox of elite leadership. The hero's biggest fear is being irrelevant, but the architect's greatest goal is to build a company so robust, a team so empowered, and a system so effective that they become completely unnecessary for the day-to-day operations. That isn't failure, that is true freedom. So in the end, the challenge of the 40-hour workweek isn't about time at all. It's about leadership. It forces a choice. Is your legacy going to be a cautionary tale of burnout and personal sacrifice? Or will it be a blueprint for a thriving, self-sustaining system that continues to grow long, long after you've moved on? The choice is yours.